Good morning, my Asheville friends and community. Sending love here from St. Louis. I wanted to find a way to share some of the trauma resiliency practices that I use in my personal practice, my personal life. And I'm hoping that can just help you, survive these next few months as you rebuild your lives. I was talking to my good friend, Sharon Oxidine last night, and she was just sharing some deep concerns about folks' resiliency and mindset and just having such deep trauma of loss of livelihood and loss of a way of life. And I wanted just to share, I wanted to take, 15 minutes today just to share a little bit of what I've learned around resiliency. A couple of things in my medical qigong practice and training with David Kuhn that always help me is just taking my hands together, creating some warmth and kind of energy and holding them right over the collarbone area, one hand over another, and taking just 5 to 10 breaths, breath coming in, breath flowing out. This has a way of, calming anxiety, calming feelings of panic, allowing the hands to get warm over time, and just allowing that breath to come in and out. You can pause and bring more heat and warmth to the hands. And we're looking for any saliva changes in the throat, and then come back and just connect here to the thymus area. And again, just feel that breath flow in and out, slower and deeper than normal. And just use your imagination to imagine warm sunlight, just warmth beginning to come into the thymus gland. Good. This area really is that gatekeeper between your heart and your throat, what you desire and what we're able to create. Good. So that can be done quite a bit through your day, just warming the hands and holding here. Another really nice one is just to drag the fingers down the neck to the collarbone and just kind of go back and forth, maybe 10 rounds this morning. Just getting that lymphatic system to flow, getting any tension out of that neck. These muscles of the neck can get kind of hyper fixated when we experienced a trauma. These scalenes here. And so you're putting nice amount of pressure coming all the way down here, back and forth, and yawning. So yawning is another hack, superpower to kind of help the stress system. I was working with somebody who had been in the hospital for a few days and hadn't slept due to all the noise and the fear. And so I sat with her and I just yawned for about 10 minutes, just yawning. That yawn, that's the triple yawn, the yawn that builds into the yawn. Oh, yeah. Yeah, deep yawning is one of those hacks we can bring in on purpose, looking for that increased amount of saliva coming into the throat. Good. Another little mini qigong practice that I really love is just called, you can do it seated or standing, but it's just waterfall. And you imagine your hands just kind of are floating up towards the sky and walking down towards your belly. We'll just do 5 here. It's imagine your hands are floating up, going out to where the earth and sky meet, then up to the sun, the moon, and the stars, and then straight down, coming in through your crown, into your heart, into your belly. Hands drop down to the ground. They float up towards the sky above, having a nice breath up and walking. We call walking the mind down, bringing calm, more coherent, steady energy into your body. So reaching out to this, what we call universal chi field, to the energy around you and bringing it back in and down through the body and into the belly. Good. So that's just a little mini qigong practice to reset through the day. Doing the waterfall, either standing or seated, warming your hands, placing them over the thymus gland or the heart or the belly, and just breathing in a slow, steady way, thinking really about being poured into energetically. And I know that can be really hard during times like this. There's also another couple slides I want to show you that I think are really helpful. I'm going to put on my glasses for this. Hopefully there won't be a big glare for you guys. I'm going to share my screen. And I want to just encourage you to lean into your heart math practices or any practices you have to really bring resiliency. So even if we're going through really difficult times, really traumatic situations, if we're able to create a coherent heart rhythm, then what we can find is that our ability to focus increases, sleep increases, almost a 40% increase in feelings of calm, reduction of anxiety by almost 50%, fatigue and depression. I know from talking to folks in Asheville, these are the very things that are happening for some in the community. And so when we do qigong or breathing or meditation, it may feel like you can't do it right now because things aren't settled and resolved. Even just doing a few moments a day can just help you take on the challenges that you have in a more meaningful way. And so the practices I'm going to just introduce you to today is really about reclaiming and rebuilding a positive baseline in your nervous system so that we can turn states of anxiety and stress into more ease. So we can self-regulate. I know some of you are in houses with people that you love, but you're not able to get your own personal space or even go to the normal places that you go to for respite. And so this is something you do have control over, to be able to do some form of self-regulation training. And these practices were taught in war zones. They are people on active duty, police officers, first responders, where there's often crises occurring. So they're designed with that. So a couple other things, like when we're in a state of frustration, anxiety, stress, trauma, most of us will have what we call an incoherent heart rhythm. And that really matters. And that incoherent heart rhythm interrupts our brain's ability to think clearly, to forecast, to make clear decisions, to even we go into empathy overload and maybe into shutdown. And so when we take a few minutes each day to genuinely cultivate feelings of connection, feelings of connection, care, gratitude, love, those things do create kind of a shift in how our heart rhythm is occurring. So by taking these pattern interrupts, we can shift from these natural states of incoherence into coherence so that the vagus nerve can bring kind of healthy, coherent information to the thalamus that integrates the brain. So just a couple more slides I want to show you so you understand why to power through, why to overcome resistance. When this is called the depletion to renewal grid. And what we know is that we are always experiencing an emotion of anger, frustration, overwhelm, sadness, boredom, cynicism, hopelessness, and or on the right side of the grid, what we would consider replenishing emotions, emotions that help your body function in an optimal way. So emotions do impact our immune system, our health, and our capacity to think. So many of you might be experiencing anger, frustration, overwhelm, which would be very normal. Not having water, not having your community, having great loss. And so in heart math, we think of the anger, frustration, overwhelm as a bit healthier. You have some energy. It's typically moving you towards trying to take action. And the most dangerous place to be after experiencing trauma or setback is when we really kind of sink into feelings of cynicism, boredom, sadness, hopelessness, despair. And although it's very normal to drop down in that, but if we catch ourselves really dropping down in that and staying there, that's when sometimes that suicidal thoughts will sometimes come, like just wanting to end all that pain. And so that's something to not ignore, to get help, to reach out for resources. Just know that your brain and your heart rhythms aren't functioning in that optimal way, and that you can shift out of that. So in heart math practice, we recognize when we're on that, we call it left side of the grid. And we work towards these mini practices through the day to just move more to neutral, right? So we may not feel happy, enthusiastic. We may not feel appreciation, but we just move to create more of this middle way to feeling neutrality. So I tend to think about like driving a car down the busy highway. And the first practice you learn is heart focused breathing. It's a way of like stabilizing the car and just creating stabilization in the car. And then that's where we teach heart focused breathing. And then what we do is we move on to other techniques such as quick coherence and heart lock in. And then once we get that breath to be smooth and easy, moving in and out of the heart in a coherent way, that's really important, that the breath gets kind of shortened and robbed and bumpy when we have difficult experiences or traumatic experiences. So the first real practice is just little bits through your day, allowing your attention to be on the chest or heart, maybe your hand, and then just feeling that breath begin to get slower and deeper than normal, kind of moving in and out. And it just kind of moves in and out. And over time, you ask your breath to get smoother and lengthen towards a 3 to 5 inhale and 3 to 5 second exhale. You notice any changes in your muscle tension, your jaw, back of your neck, belly sounds, increased saliva. Those are all sounds you're kind of moving into a deeper state of ease. And you might just do that for 1 minute, just allowing your body, kind of programming your body to return to this coherent rhythm. And this is so good for you because your heart and brain can start to have relative safety because it starts to feel like your heart is regulated, your breath is consistent, and then allows that prefrontal cortex, those decision-making capacities and resiliency to kick in. And this is really important because when we have natural feelings of anger, too much anger without being able to dip into neutral or ease, we might find ourselves just resisting ideas or plans or pivoting from one thing to the next. We might find it difficult to follow through with deadlines. We might fall into blame, judgment, and frustration. These are very normal, natural thought processes that come when we feel angry, frustrated. And then what happens is that then we make a lot more mistakes. We miss deadlines. We drop things. We get exhausted. We have more tension. Now, when we can get into ease or even just a feeling of connection and care, appreciation, even just for me, compassion and neutral is often the gateway over to the right side of the grid. What we know is that we become more open. We find it easier to come into a place of trust. We can feel and accept appreciation and share it. And we can just deeply listen to our own inner guidance and to others. And so, really important is the ability for the mind to create. So, when we go into the left side of the grid, feelings of frustration, hopelessness, those are often associated with trauma. Our ability to be creative can become really limited. And so, by just doing these heart focused breathing pattern interrupts through the day, it starts to allow the body to move out of that trauma shutdown response and into thinking and creating something that will help create a better life. And so throughout your day at heart math training, we really think about, well, where am I on the grid? Okay, I'm on that left side. I'm really feeling low and sad. Okay, so I'm going to just take 1 to 2 minutes to do this heart focused breathing. And that's it. And then you go about your day. You might notice you have a frustrating call and you're like, oh, I'm really angry. Okay, eyes open or closed, just in the moment, you bring that in for 1 to 2 minutes, attention to your heart. You feel that breath get slower and deeper than normal, and you practice this kind of self-regulation. If you're talking with your child or a friend or a loved one or your mate, and you guys are just bickering or it's frustration from the tension, you simply can just drop in together and you say, hey, can we do our focused breathing, get into a co-regulated state? And you both put your hands on your chest. You turn inward and you feel that breath get slower and deeper than normal, moving in and out in a more comfortable way over time. perhaps bringing in, just for this moment, a feeling of ease, kindness, appreciation for someone or something in your life. And you really just work to feel this feeling of genuine care and radiate it to yourself and then to your mate, to your child, to your pets, your community. And just really feel this moment of connection of your heart literally locking in and just radiating these feelings out towards your community. And that technique, so simple, these techniques are meant to be kind of short, 1 to 3 minutes, to kind of train your body to get back into self-regulation and throughout your day. I wanted to share a couple more things. So why we do heart math is that it actually helps rebuild safety within ourselves. And it helps us when we share these practices to help others rebuild safety within their nervous system. So when we have traumatic experience, it absolutely impacts our ability to be in a healthy relationship with ourselves and others. But as we begin to build coherence, our capacity to receive love, give love, create love improves. And what we know is that when we have trauma, that our ability, we get overwhelmed. It affects our ability to cope, causes feelings of helplessness, and it diminishes our sense of an ability to feel a full range of emotions. So there's a lot of dissociation or numbness, not feeling at all. So by quick as soon as possible, being able to breathe in some of these self-regulation practices, then we can start to shift that trauma trajectory, is what I call it. So why this is really important is because when we stay in these depleted states of incoherence, it affects our muscle mass, causes brain cell death, accelerates our aging, diminishes our performance, and most importantly, it impairs our brain function. But if we can start to bring coherence in, then we have increased longevity. We can think clearly, our memory works better, we can problem solve. And so it's just really important to know that in spite of what's happening, to still be able to dip in to our wellness practices. And so I'll quit there for now. I just wanted to give you this. But there's one more slide. One more slide I think is just really important. I was sharing this with Sharon the other night, is that when we feel at ease and safe and connected in the world, we're in what we call the green zone. So we're socially engaged. We have more authentic joy. We're present in the moment. We're not ruminating in our thoughts. We're more open, compassionate, and mindful. When we have a stressful event or tragedy or crisis, it moves us into something called the sympathetic state. And that's either we have to, the system is saying, get out of here, you need to flee, right? And so it starts out very mild: worry, anxiety, frustration, and panic, right? So those would be kind of the activation of the sympathetic, but around the flight channel, right? The fight would be like frustration, irritation, anger, and rage. And so, that's why when we might be frustrated and throw something across the room, or, we're trying to fight something. And so when you have something like, a natural disaster that occurs in your community, you're probably pinning off these two: fight, flight, flee, fight and stay, call, have the conversations. And so your system is, escalating. And then eventually what can happen if the traumatic situation doesn't resolve, we can go into like helplessness, freeze, appease, dissociation, numbness, and we're in what we would consider like a more dangerous state. And in the mindset, that's when our body's kind of just shutting down, preparing for death. And then if we don't die, if we don't have that collapse response, then we can start to kind of go back down. But then if there's another stressor, another event, that fight flight can kind of have a short fuse, keep kicking on, and we can kind of stay in that hyper aroused state. So when you're doing heart math practices throughout your day, you're noticing, that you're in what we call the red zone, right? You're in this red zone, and you're doing a 2 to 3 minute pen rep with the idea of telling the nervous system to come back down into the green, right? And then you do it again. So your recovery just becomes, you get agitated and you come back down and you take care of business. You feel the agitation, you start to go up, and you do your heart math practice and you kind of come back down. And those of you that are really interested, Heart Math has an amazing app on on their phone, on the iPad or on your iPhone, and they have a biofeedback device. And I'll reach out and see if they're offering any discounts maybe to Asheville right now. But what you can do is put this on your ear and it'll show you the state of your nervous system. And it'll train you just with this smooth breathing in and out, how you can get your heart into a more coherent practice, and has all of the heart math practices recorded. And then you can see very quickly in as little as 6 weeks of doing this practice that you can control, you can improve your heart rate variability. And then you often see that things that were completely unmanageable start to become manageable. And I'm happy to offer you all any free training and support, but that app and that biofeedback device could be a useful tool. All right, so let's just end with a heart lock-in practice, which I think is, one of 7 techniques, but this one is a really powerful one. And I want to ask you to eyes open or close, and you're just going to bring your attention to the area of the chest or heart region. And I want you just to begin to feel your breath move in and out in a slower and deeper way than normal. And I'm doing this along with you all this morning. Now I want you just to activate and sustain genuine feelings of appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. It could even be a pet, family member, and know that the brain is going to likely want to bring forward the depleting emotions of loss and grief and trauma. You can just acknowledge that, and then do your best to kind of have an I mean business attitude for this moment. Activate that genuine feeling of appreciation or care, something for your life. For me, I often picture myself, hugging my younger children when they were babies, or doing qigong under my favorite trees in the park. What I'm looking for is for you to create by drawing up a positive memory that doesn't have a drop, that helps you to feel just for this moment care and appreciation, ease, or love. Hold that for at least 20 seconds or so. Now I want you to first radiate these feelings of care towards yourself and really let them soak in. Just radiate these feelings of care towards your own heart. Especially the caregivers in the world, we have to receive before we can fully give. And then radiate these feelings towards others, or anyone who pops up in your mind. And just work to sustain these feelings for a few moments longer, as long as you can. This practice really radiates these feelings of care and connection towards you and others. It restores feelings of belonging, balances your nervous system. It's very similar to the Buddha's practice of loving kindness, if you know that practice. So I hope this is helpful for you all. Sending my love from St. Louis. I really look forward to seeing you all in person, and sending all my love. Namaste.